What's up, guys? Neil Orfield here, taking a look at Stokastic's MLB DFS Lineup Generator for tonight's slate. While you're coming in, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. Of course, if you haven't yet signed up for the Lineup Generator, you can still get it for 50% off your first week using the link in the description of this video. If you're on YouTube or if you're on Twitter, just in my tweet, it's going to be just $4.48 for your first week. Still just $8.95 after that. Fantastic deal for a tool that, again, gives you only plus EV lineups. Every single lineup that you're going to get in the lineup generator has been run through the Stokastic sims and is found to be a long-term profitable lineup. Even if it doesn't win today, it should win over the long term, over a number of slates. So check it out if you haven't already, using the link in the description for 50% off. All right, we're going to look at lineups today for both DraftKings and FanDuel. I'll start with DraftKings. I'm going to do all stack types, all lineup types. So I'm going to get a mix of chalky, balanced, and contrarian lineups, and I'm not going to lock anybody in. All right, first lineup we have here, Lance Lynn and Johan Oviedo as the pitchers. Looks like we've got a lot of Coors once again today. We've got a 5-man San Diego stack with, it's a 5-0 stack, 5 San Diego stack with Montero and Bobby Witt and Sawinski as the one-offs. Let's take a look at the pitchers first, Lance Lynn and Johan Oviedo. This one you can see is on the far chalky end of the spectrum here. Lynn and Oviedo as the pitchers. Lynn, number 2 on the board, man, 14% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, and he's only 7,900. Yeah, Lynn is going to be very chalky, as you can see here, but looks good. 14% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. Matchup with Oakland, very likely to get that win. So looking good today. And then we had Oviedo as the second pitcher, kind of middle of the board here. It's a 14-game slate. Yeah, he's right in the middle of the pack with a 6% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. But using that combo of Oviedo and Lynn allows us to pay up for that Padres stack. And of course, the Padres, a 22% chance of being the top stack today, miles ahead of anybody else on the board. They look like the top stack by far and only coming in at 15% ownership. So we actually have positive leverage on the Padres today. Didn't work out yesterday. I played a ton of the Padres yesterday. If you use lineup generator, you probably did too, unless you went out of your way not to. Did not work out, but we got them at really low ownership because of the weather game. We have weather concerns once again tonight with the Padres, so keep your eye out for any weather news that we get, but we're probably going to get them at even more suppressed ownership with the weather and with how poorly it went yesterday for them in these same conditions. But more often than not, I shouldn't say more often than not, you would expect the Padres to have better odds of succeeding than any other team here. Again, 22% chance of being the top stack. They're going to fail more often than not. So I can't say that they're going to succeed more often than not, but still, those are very good odds for a baseball team to be the top stack. So I'm happy to jam the Padres once again, but keeping in mind that weather, you're going to have to keep your eye out for it. All right, I'm going to save this lineup. Second lineup, again, it's a Padres 5-0 stack with Rodriguez, Urias, and Drew Waters as the one-offs here. Got some low-owned pieces here with Urias at just 7% owned, Drew Waters at 6%. Pitchers a little bit less chalky here as well, so not quite as far on the chalky end of the spectrum with this one, despite having Soto, Tatis, some higher owned pieces here. We're offsetting that with some lower owned pieces. So we do have Oviedo once again, and then we have Zach Gallen as the secondary pitcher. He has a 12% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, looking pretty good as well against San Francisco. Again, we had that Padres stack as the only stack once again. All right, this one, let's take a look at one more because we do have, this is the first time we have a secondary stack with any volume. It's a 4-4 San Diego and New York Mets stack with Freddie Peralta and Bryce Miller as the pitchers. You can see this one far more on the contrarian end of the spectrum. First, let's take a look at the pitchers, Peralta and Bryce Miller. Freddie Peralta down at number 7 overall in terms of top 2 pitcher odds, 10% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. And then Bryce Miller, kind of middle of the pack, another 8% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, and some positive leverage on Bryce Miller as well, actually positive leverage on both of them. So looking like a good pitching combo. And then we have the Mets along with the Padres. So the top 2 stacks on the board with this one, a 7% chance of the Mets being the top stack, 22% for the Pods. All right, now I'm going to go through and just save the rest of my lineups and see what my exposures look like. All right, so we're actually pretty spread out today. Still, I mean, a ton of Padres at the top of the board, as you can see here, but highest owned bat is Kim at 55%, Sanchez, Soto, both at 50%, and then everybody else below 50%. So even though we do have a ton of the pods that are at the top of the board, they're still fairly spread out overall. We've got a few Pirates up here near the top of the board. Top pitcher is Lance Lynn, 35% exposure to Lance Lynn, 35% to Spencer Strider as well. I'd probably be okay with this level of exposure. Of course, as I said, keep my eye on the weather because I don't want to have tons of lineups that are completely washed out by the weather. My advice for handling the Padres, the game in Colorado, is I'm not playing any one-offs. If I'm playing them, I'm full stacking these teams. I don't want to risk, just losing Juan Soto. I want to have a lineup that's, other stacks and then just Juan Soto as a one-off. I would want a full stack so that if the game doesn't play, I mean, your lineup is kind of crushed anyway. If you have just one player, I'd rather take a full risk on, full 5-man stack or at least like a 3-man stack rather than just risking one-offs here and there. It's going to be my approach. I'm going to be playing fully stacked lineups with the Pods and the Rockies. All right, let's take a look at some FanDuel lineups as well. Again, I'm going to do all stack types, all lineups, not going to lock anybody in. All right, Framber Valdez as the pitcher in this first lineup. Valdez with a 7% chance of being the top pitcher. He's number 2 on the board behind Strider. And then the stacks in this lineup, looks like we have 4-2-2 Texas, no, 4-3 Texas Padres stack with then Rogers as the one-off. Taking a look in the top stacks tool for FanDuel. Texas down at number 6 on the board in terms of top stack odds, 5% chance of being the top stack. And then we had the Padres secondary stack, 22% chance of being the top stack. So 2 of the better stacks on the board. And still a very contrarian lineup. Texas coming in at relatively low ownership. We got Gary Sanchez coming in at just 1% ownership on FanDuel, where you don't need a catcher. You're going to get lower ownership on Gary Sanchez. So overall, a fairly contrarian way to stack this Coors game. And pretty low ownership on Framber Valdez as well. All right, let's just save that one. Another pretty contrarian stack here. Good to see a game that a lineup that does not have Coors in it at all. Avoid some of that risk. We got Spencer Strider as the pitcher here, 24% ownership. He has a 10% chance of being the top pitcher on the board. Pretty clearly your top pitching option if you can pay up for him. And then we had stacks of the Mets, the Braves, 4-2-2, Mets, Braves, and Brewers stacks. So Mets number 2 on the board, Braves number 3 on the board, Brewers number 7 looks like. So 5% chance for the Brewers to be the top stack, 7% chance for both the Mets and the Braves. Looks like a good lineup overall, and nice to see some lineups that don't have any Coors in there to kind of mitigate that risk a little bit. Now I'm just going to go through and save 20 lineups and see what comes up. Fairly spread out once again. Our highest owned player is Spencer Strider at 55%, and then we've got Tatis at 50%, all the way down. Third player here is at 40% with Brendan Rodgers and Xander Bogaerts. So fairly spread out here. I'd probably be okay just eating this level of exposure. Of course, I'd want to make sure that I don't have any one-offs from that Coors game, just because I don't want to risk losing the game in too many of my lineups. All right, I think that is going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching, guys, and good luck tonight.